From architecture to painting and sculpture, literature to live music and theater. Radio 111 presents Bonnie G. and Brian Mendoza with The Desert Scene, your connection to culture and entertainment in the desert cities. Here's Bonnie and Brian.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. I'm here with Brian Mendoza, who's ably running the board and keeping everything running smoothly. We're really happy to welcome back to The Desert Scene. He's been a guest a couple of times. Michael Kraft, who has a brand new book out, Desert Getaway, which is fabulous. I got to read it. I got a early copy. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Thank you, Bonnie. I'm great. How are you today?
Good. I have to tell you, I was telling Brian before we started, I've read the, three of your and Mr. Puss series, right, which are all great, but I think this is your best book yet. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. I think you're right, but then I always think the most recent one is my best yet. But
yeah.
It means a great deal coming from you, so thank you.
I just love it. And so tell for folks who might want to hopefully go buy it, give us a little synopsis of this one.
Well, this one it's set in and around Palm Springs, and it involves two principal characters, Dante O'Donnell and Jazz Friendly. Dante is a white, gay male getting on in years. He's up into his 50s, though that doesn't seem so on in years anymore.
Yeah.
And Jazz Friendly is a black, straight woman who's an ex-Palm Springs cop. And these two have had previous run-ins where, they just don't mix at all. They're, they're antagonists, in effect. But then a series of events early in the book brings them together where they find that they have to work together to solve not one, but multiple murders that may, in fact, be linked. And so in the course of this investigation and in the course of the story, they learn not only to respect each other, but eventually to think of each other as friends. So there is, there's what I would call the surface plot of the several murders that happened, those whodunits. But then, there's a sort of background emotional plot that has to do with their budding relationship from enemies to frenemies to friends.
A question for you, R.E., that do you think, and I love how those two sort of storylines kind of intermesh and intertwine. I would think that's always important, but should it always be two, or do you think if someone had like sort of three or four subplots that would get a little too complicated and muck it up?
Well, there really are more subplots than that. Because Dante is going through various romantic relationship issues of his own. So those are in the background. I think subplots are great. They add interest, to the overall story, and but there is, of course, the danger that they could take over. And that's just a matter of crafting the book, for lack of a better word, to keep all of that in balance.
Was this a story, the storyline that had been sort of percolating in the back of your mind? And are Dante and Jazz brand new characters? Have you written about them before?
No, I have not written about them before. They were invented from whole cloth, and no, the story had not been percolating in the back of my mind. The origins of this book are in a short story that was published last July in an anthology called Palm Springs Noir, published by Akashic Books. And my short story in that anthology is titled VIP Check-In. And basically that short story became massaged to become chapter one of this novel. When I was approached to take part in that anthology project, it just came out of the blue one morning. I got an email from the editor, Barbara DeMarco Barrett, saying that I had been recommended to her by Todd Goldberg, an author who's very well known here in the area, as being a possible contributor to the book. And of course, the focus of that book was noir. Now, I've never specifically written in the noir subgenre, but so that was the first thought that occurred to me. I've never done this, but the second thought that I had very quickly is, yes, sign me up. It sounds like fun. I'd love to try it. And so I knew that I had to come up with something entirely new to make that kind of story work, even as a short story. Well, I think any author will tell you that that creating a short story involves almost as much creative work up front as it does to sort of plant the bare bones for an entire novel. So the short story was entirely original, but by the time I finished writing the short story, I knew I had a novel. And now I think that novel could very well be the basis of a series.
I was just going to ask that. I think Dante and Jazz, I think we need to see them again, yes.
You will, yeah.
So I'm looking, I saw some little PR. You have a quote here from John Copenhaver, McCavity Award-winning. Like the bright pastels of Palm Springs, Desert Getaway glows with humor, moves at an energetic pace, and is wholly entertaining, which I would completely agree with. So that's nice to hear those kinds of things, yes?
I love that blurb.
Yeah. And so you've got an event coming up, book launch reception. Michael Kraft will read from his new mystery novel, Desert Getaway, Sunday, May 1st from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at the Artists Center at the Gilgallon in Palm Desert. Complimentary wine and refreshments. Special guests, Lee Goldberg and Todd Goldberg, New York Times bestselling authors, will discuss the book with Michael and answer questions. You're going to sign copies of your book and other books. Free admission, but reservations are required. So had you done an event like this for your other books in the past?
I typically will do a launch if it's the start of a new series. Now, I doubt if I'll do full-blown launch events for the subsequent books in this series. And back when I lived in Wisconsin, when I was first starting my writing career, of course, when my very first novel came out, we had a big launch event. And then when I was contracted to write the Mark Manning series, which became a series of 7 books published by both Kensington Books and St. Martin's Press, when the first one of those came out, we had a full-blown downtown launch event. But as the series get going, once they're up on their feet, when a new one comes out, I will typically do bookstore readings, that kind of thing, but not a full-blown launch.
Yeah.
So this one is special, and I hope people will come. If you don't mind my mentioning, as you did, it is necessary to reserve for that event on May 1st, but the event itself is free. But in order to register, your listeners can find the link to do that at the very bottom of my homepage. And my website is Michael Kraft, Kraft with a C, michaelkraft.com. And again, if you just go to the bottom of the page, you'll find the link that will take you to all the information about the May 1st event, including the mechanism to reserve for it.
Okay, great. So another thing I was wondering is, so Jazz is a former Palm Springs cop, and Dante, of course I read this like a month ago, but I believe there's it's sort of vacation rentals. So did you do research on the industries that these people are working in? Did you know anyone on the Palm Springs police? Did you do some research on that?
I don't have connections with the local police departments, but I do have several connections to various rental agencies, vacation rental agencies in the area. So that did involve a bit of research. I've done a lot, as you may have picked up on, Bonnie, most of my mystery novels, in fact, I think all of them, involve what would technically be called amateur sleuths. I don't have as my primary character a detective or a cop. It's always someone else who is, drawn into it, not unlike Murder, She Wrote.
Right.
Where like Angela Lansbury, just had kind of a knack for helping the local constables solve things, and most of my novels are structured that way too. So the police procedural aspect, which is necessary to any murder mystery, that's pretty much off stage in my books. It's told from the perspective of someone else.
Right.
And that someone else in this case is Dante O'Donnell, who works for a rental agency.
So I think this genre and this style suits you so well. So do you think you'll stay, whether it's Dante and Jazz or back with Mr. Puss, do you think you'll stay in the sort of detective, amateur sleuth, murder mystery kind of lane, if you will, for future books?
Oh, I think so, yes. I mean, I've only done what I would call more literary fiction on a couple of occasions. My very first novel was a slim little literary paperback, and it got me over the hump of being unpublished.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, I published a collection of my own short stories that was called Inside Dumont, and I think you recall that as well.
I do, yeah.
And I mean that was a series of linked short stories with a common character who was the link between all of the stories, and together those stories told a larger story, sort of like a novel, but not exactly. In fact, those collections of linked short stories are sometimes referred to as the novel in stories. So that was more of a literary effort, but it provided. There was so much original material involved in coming up with a dozen short stories that once again, at some point, I just realized there is a novel here.
Yeah.
And those stories became the basis of the Mr. Puss series.
Yeah.
And Mr. Puss didn't even appear in that collection, in that original collection of stories. So one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
But I think, when it comes to, what's the next novel or what's beyond the next novel, it's still probably going to be a classically plotted murder mystery. I'm comfortable writing in that genre, and I know what sort of outline structure works best for me to come up with a good, solid, pleasing story.
Would you say that what's sort of the time frame? I know writers and performers are all very creative. Let's say you finish Desert Getaway, how long after that? Obviously, you're doing promotion and selling and all that kind of stuff. But how long after that do you get the itch to I want to write something new? I got a new one in me.
I mean, I know what the new one is going to be. I have it outlined. I basically have the research done, and as soon as this book launch is finished and I can sort of clear my mind, I will get down to the nitty-gritty of writing the next one. Some people often ask me, how long does it take you to write a novel? All I can say is when I'm in the throes of an ongoing series, those books come out about once a year. And so, I mean, the easy answer is it takes a year to write one. But the actual drafting, the hard work of getting 100,000 words on paper, that takes, about 4 months. For me.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. How long in between usually? So, but it's the whole project kind of once a year kind of thing. Well, I would encourage anyone to get Desert Getaway. It's such a great read. A Dante and Jazz Mystery, Michael Kraft. Again, the event is Sunday, May 1st, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Book signing. He's going to read from the novel and take some questions from the audience. It's at the Artist Center of the Gilgallon, Palm Desert, California. Free admission, but reservations required through Eventbrite. Go to Michael Kraft's Facebook page. You can find that. Congratulations on this. I think it is just fabulous, and I can't wait for the next one.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome. All right, Michael Kraft, get the book. All right, we'll see you guys next time on The Desert Scene.